Today we're going to look at one of my favorite classes from the LEGO Spike Prime software, the CNC Machine. Now, depending on who you ask, students and teachers can find this model a little bit confusing because something is not right with the model. In fact, the instructions are deliberately missing a bunch of steps. So today, I'll show you how to get this model working properly so that you too can enjoy the project. Hello, I'm Mr. Code and welcome to a LEGO Spike Prime tutorial. You can access today's project in the Spike Prime software by going into Units. So here we go into Units and then Invention Squad and then finally scrolling down to Broken. Hit that Start button and then follow the instructions in Build to build the model before coming back to this video. So CNC stands for Computer Numerical Control, which is applied to a manufacturing process where complex machinery is controlled by pre-programmed steps using a computer. An example of this is 3D printing, where the print nozzle of a 3D printer moves in a three-dimensional space to create a model through additive manufacturing. However, there are lots of ways that CNC is applied. It's not just on 3D printers. CNC machines can work with lathes, drills, or even lasers to cut out shapes and different products. The CNC machine model in LEGO Spike Prime helps kids understand how a CNC machine works by controlling the X and Y position of a pencil in a 2D space. But if you build the model based on the instructions, then it doesn't quite work, at least not reliably. And even if you try to watch the videos and read the hints, it isn't completely clear what the solution looks like. So I'm here to change that for you. If you're interested in learning more about Spike Prime, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. Making LEGO videos takes a lot of time, and it is your support that lets me continue making these coding videos, so I thank you in advance. Let's start by looking at how the model is supposed to work. Okay, so let's go into Spike, and then when we are introduced to the model, I'm going to mute this. I'm going to watch this video. All right, so this is the model that is built based on the instructions. You can see that they add a pencil and then they put in a piece of paper and then they're going to run the code, but it's not going to work well. You can see that right there, that the gear is not the right gear ratio. It is moving way too quickly, and it's not because of the code. You can't solve this by just changing the code, the speed of the motor, for example. It's actually the gearing that is the problem. Second thing that you'll notice is that that piece of paper goes all wonky and all over the place. And finally, if you pay really close attention, you'll see that this little gear rack on the pencil, it's also not secure very tightly. So these are all the problems that we are going to fix during this lesson. So let's watch the rest of the video. So find all of the bugs. So we just talked about a whole bunch of them. And now, as you can see, that just that little split second here, that it does end up working well. So here you see how it is now working really well. And then they suggest ways to improve the machine. All right. So even that little bit of an example of when the robot does work well, you can't see clearly what it was actually trying to do. But basically, the robot draws a very small rectangle when it is working. When you have fixed all of the mechanical issues with the robot, it's going to draw a little bit of a rectangle. And they actually say in the hints that all the code is as it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to change the code. So let's look into how we can do that. All right, so here is our model. And we can lift up this top part over here to feed a piece of paper in. Okay, so here's the piece of paper. And then we have already identified some major problems, okay? So first thing is that the gearing is not correct. Okay, so this gearing, if I spin this gear, the paper moves way too quickly. Okay, if I spin the gear, the paper moves way too quickly. So we need to do something called a gear reduction, which reduces the speed of that paper. The paper is wonky because if you look closely over here on the left-hand side, I'll hold this up. If you look on this side of the robot, there is a little wheel that is pulling the paper through, but it's not happening on the other side, on the right-hand side of the paper. So the paper is getting pulled on one side, but not the other. So we'll need to fix that as well. Another thing that we noticed from that video was that this gear rack is not very securely placed. You can see that you can wobble it around and it gets moved around really easily, and it's basically not going to work really well. And finally, we can see one more problem over here. This hinge is actually connected only on one side. So we need to fix the hinge as well. So in fact, let's start by fixing the hinges. So let's add this little piece in here. All right, that solves problem number 1. So now our hinge is nice and stable. Problem number 2 is that our paper feeder only grips on one side. So we need to fix that. You can see over here that we have a wheel. I'm going to grab one more of those wheels over here. Let's put that together and then let's put it on the other side of the machine. You can see that actually there is a little bit of an axle sticking out. So they deliberately skip these steps. And actually, if you do these instructions in the build menu, not in the units, the instructions are exactly the same. I would have thought that they would have made the working version the final build instructions, but they don't. So you have to solve these yourself. Okay, so now we have the paper gripping properly. When the gear is moving, the paper is moving up and down more or less evenly. But we have another problem. And the problem is that the gear is too fast. So we need to solve that. So if I look over here, you can see that the driving gear on the motor is a big gear and the driven gear is this small gear. Okay, so this is a speed increase and we need to change it. So simply change the order of those two gears and that's going to make it so that you have a gear reduction. So pull the big gear out and the small gear, put the small gear up the top. And then the big gear down the bottom. Okay. All right, now we have a gear reduction. And then finally, what we're going to do is solve this issue with the gear rack so that it doesn't fall out as easily. All we can have to do is add a couple of beams or any other kind of Lego part really to brace on top of your gear rack so that it doesn't go anywhere. Okay, so grab a bunch of connectors. And then put it over here. That's nice and stable. Yeah, grab another one. All right, and that's it. So these are the 4 major features that you should be fixing in order to fix your robot and get it working. And of course, you can add more improvements to it as well. But let's check this out and make sure it is actually working. You attach the pencil onto the robot, and then you add the pencil weight like that. It's a bit of decoration. And let's run the code. So go into Spike. hit the next button, and like we said, the code is already done for you. Connect it up using version 3 of the app. It's very, very fast. Hit back to project, and then let's see what happens when we press run. Okay, you might not see it very clearly, but that was a very, very faint square, and it's very neat and tidy. Now that you have fixed the CNC machine, it is time to challenge yourselves. Maybe add some sensors and add some other improvements, and maybe make your robot draw different shapes. It's a very, very cool challenge and fun challenge to do. I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, More Educational. Ever since Creator Academy started making LEGO education videos, we have been greatly supported by the experts and More Educational. They're an authorized LEGO education partner with over 25 years experience working with LEGO education products. So if you're in Australia and you want to buy genuine LEGO education products like all the ones shown in this video, then make sure you check out the More Educational website. That's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.